Hi, Tanya from Lexa's Wellness. So this is the my actual first video of a series of videos that I will be doing that talks about wellness. You can't go anywhere today and not read or see the phrase something related to wellness, whether it be nutrition on the magazine cover, a news story in the local news, something on social media. There's a lot of talk about it to the point where sometimes I feel like it's more of a fad than an actual lifestyle. And I think it's important for people to know and people to understand exactly what wellness is. So I decided, like I said, to start a series of videos about wellness. There's a lot of components to it. And today I'm just going to touch on about meaningful lives, but want you to have a full understanding so that you can make the best choices and you can live with intention. You can live with, by setting out each day to live intentional and accomplishing some of the things that you want to accomplish, not just wishing and thinking about it. So it can all be overwhelming at times. And I also think that we can overthink it and overcomplicate it, the whole concept of wellness. So that's another reason why I'm here and I'm talking to you about it. So the purpose of today's videos is to give you 7 steps to a meaningful life. 7 basic steps that you can use to apply to your life that can add more meaning to it, because that is the purpose of life, right? Like, not just to wake up and breathe and go through each day mindlessly and just kind of taking what the day has come instead of being intentional in starting your day and how you're going to go about doing things. So anyway, as I said, this video is about 7 steps. This is to give you some tips on 7 steps to lead a meaningful life. I have notes. I wrote notes because I just wanted to make sure I say all the points. I give you all the points that I wanted to include. So the first step is to work for quality, not quantity, but quality. So what that means is in everything that you do, just asking yourself, is this my best? Am I giving you my absolute best product? Am I giving you my absolute best service, whether it be at work, whether it be coaching your team, cooking a meal, whatever. Years ago, I consider myself to be a perfectionist. So every single thing that I did had to be perfect. So I had this thing where I just strived for perfection. Well, nothing is perfect. There's flaw in everything that we do. But I spent an incredible amount of time, even in grad school, undergrad, not so much grad school because I got a lot better by then, but undergrad and just the different jobs that I worked. What I found was that I became less productive because I was zeroing in on little microscopic components of whatever it was I was working on. And by doing that, it just took away time. I wasn't being productive. And so even with starting this video series, I've had to remind myself, Tanya, your videos aren't going to be perfect. Your content won't be perfect. Your delivery won't be perfect, but make it the best that you can. So instead of procrastinating further like I had been doing, well, I need a better light. Oh, I could use a better camera. Oh, I could use a better this, a better that. I finally decided, listen, girlfriend, it's now or never. So my delivery, my best will get better at different times. But for today, I'm giving you my best. So again, work for quality. Just ask yourself, is this my best? You might be sick one day, right? If you're sick, how can you give your absolute best if you're not feeling well, but you committed to going to work? So that's what working for quality. So that's your first step for meaningful life. The second step is to be kind and to practice empathy. Be kind and practice empathy. Together, they have a bi-directional purpose in that when you are kind and when you practice empathy, not only do you strengthen others, but you also strengthen yourself. And I have just my notes. When I included this component, what came to mind was the recent court case regarding Amber Geiger, I think her name is. And Amber is a white police officer who murdered a man who she said she thought was in her apartment. So she comes home, she goes to enter her apartment, the door is open, she walks in, thinks this man is in her apartment, and she kills him. It happens to be a black man that she killed. So there's a lot of discussion and a lot of debate about how did she think she was in his apartment, right? Her own apartment, excuse me. So she goes to trial and she is found guilty and she's sentenced to 10 years. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of anger. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of nasty comments being made on social media about the case. I'm not here to debate that. I just want to say this. I want to speak about the younger brother. So the victim had a younger brother who was 18 years old. And in the courtroom, he spoke on behalf of his family and his, for his brother who was killed. He asked the judge, he did something that people just don't do. He asked the judge if he could hug Amber. Everyone seemed to be surprised by this, but the judge agreed to it. He got up, he walked over to her, and he gave her a pretty lengthy, long, sincere, genuine hug. Okay? And he pretty much stated that he forgave her. So, to me, his actions were like the ultimate act in forgiveness. And think about it. His brother hadn't been gone for a very long time. So those emotions are still raw and there's still sadness and, a whole bunch of other things going on. But in spite of that, he forgave her and asked the judge to hug her. That is a fine example of what kindness and empathy looks like. While I don't know that I could have did that at that time, so close to his brother's murder, but his actions demonstrate a really good example for us to look at and to think about in our own lives. How can I be kinder? And how can I show more empathy toward others and myself? So that is step 2. Okay. The third step that you can take to live a more meaningful life is to pull your own happy wagon. You got to take responsibility for your own happiness. And we filter our own experiences and we make our own memories, right? Like nobody can do that for us. We can't rely on others or external devices to make us happy. And we've all heard the statement, money doesn't make us happy. Money doesn't make you happy. You can have all the money in the world, the biggest house, the fanciest cars, travel to the most exotic places in the world, but that is not going to make you happy. If that were the case, then all these rich folks out here suffering from, depression and a bunch of other issues, money is not the answer. So you've got to create it yourself. And some ways for you to load up that wagon of happiness for yourself is to, one, just create your own joy. Dig deep to decide to discern what makes you happy. Like really think about that. And I don't think that people always do really think about it because we just kind of get up, we go about our day reacting to the people and the events and the activities that occur, but we're not necessarily thinking, like putting a lot of thought, a lot of consciousness, a lot of mindfulness into what is it that can make me happy or happier. So one thing you can do is to look in all situations, look for what is right instead of what's wrong. In every situation, there's positive and there's negative. No one's life is perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. We all go through challenges and experiences, at different points in our life. So if you look for the good and focus less on the bad, they outweigh one another, and you're going to feel better. You're not going to walk around with those heavy thoughts in your mind of what you hate or what you don't like or what's bad. Find redeeming moments, even in the most difficult circumstances. Okay, so I'm living down here in Georgia. I've lived here for 2 years with my family, and pretty much methodically planned every step of the way. You can't plan for everything. So while the move has been positive, I have certainly had a fair share of challenges. So I look at those challenges and I try to put a different lens on, and I try to look at it differently. Okay, so what am I experiencing? Why am I experiencing this? And what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to get out of this? Because rest assured, there is meaning in everything that we experience, and it's up for us to take a step back and try to figure out what lesson is in there for us. The last thing on the third step of pulling your own happiness wagon is really, well, it's actually two things. Look for beauty and inspiration and for humor all around you. Okay? No matter what I go through, life is good for me. Okay? I have my health. I live in a beautiful home. My family's healthy. There could be so much worse that's going on. And so I try to look at it from that standpoint. But even outside of the home, if you look around in your environment, on your drive to work, look around. What do you see? The beautiful trees. If you ride to work early, you might see the sunrise, or coming home, the sunset. Even if you don't ride in a car, if you take a train to work, there's still beauty around you. If you're in the subway in New York City, and yeah, people will say, oh my gosh, the subway is dirty. Yeah, it is. But then there's also some beautiful art. There's graffiti, artwork that some of the most talented residents of the city has put on the wall. So you can look in that and you can find beauty in that, instead of just saying, oh my God, it's dirty, it stinks, it's this, it's that. And again, finally, look inside of yourself for satisfaction and joy, and be honest with yourself, because you know what? It's really easy to continue to point the finger. Well, I will be happy when this happens. I will be happy when she does this for this. I will be happy when my child graduates high school. I will be happy when, you can fill in the blanks in a number of ways. But the bottom line is, you have to be honest with yourself, what you feel and why you're feeling it. So I also recommend, nothing new, but to really keep a journal. Journal what you feel. You can keep a gratitude journal, or you can just write a journal about, keep a journal just about your everyday activities and what's going on in your life, and how do you feel and why you feel what you feel, and what you have control over to fix that in the event you're faced with that situation again. So that was step 3. Step 4, take time to know yourself. Take the time to really get to know yourself. Every single day, spend a little time with yourself and only yourself. No TV, no cell phone, no social media, no electronics. Just a few minutes of sitting silent. That silent can be prayer, it can be meditation, or it can just be breathing, just being. And doing so is going to clear your mind. It's going to help you gain clarity and focus. And the ideas, the thoughts that come to you during those moments will only come to you during that time. So set aside 10 or 15 minutes a day. I don't care if you have to go sit in your closet upstairs in your bedroom, or if you've got to sit in the tub in the bathroom and pull the shower curtain so you're not looking at anybody, and sit there with a candle. Okay, speaking of, so I've got a candle here that's burning, right? This thing is amazing. It's by Yankee Candle, and it's Midsummer's Night. I'm burning it because my focus has been trying to get these videos right today. And this candle smells delicious. It's relaxing to me. And so I know that little candle does a lot for me. So being aware of that helps me do what I need to do. Also, be aware of your strengths and nurture your strengths. You have strengths and you have weaknesses. Instead of getting all caught up and hung up on your weaknesses, think about your strengths and nurture them. Let's say you're at work and you're asked to you're asked to do a particular, to join a project, and do a particular, they want you to use a certain skill. And maybe that skill you're not too good at and you're not very confident in that ability. Well, if it's not a directive, something that you have to do, if you know what your strengths are, just say, you know what, I am better at, I don't know, I'm really good at spreadsheets, and I'm very good at Excel. So I can contribute. I think I'd be more effective in contributing in this regards versus over here, because I'm not as good over here. That's not one of my strengths. So being aware of what your strengths are, and really focus on those, and look at ways to further develop that strength. You can take classes. There are online classes. There are every kind of book that you can imagine, self-help books that are out there. You can do this self-help book. In addition to online college courses, there are all kinds of personal and professional development courses at community college, like in the evening, not for credit, but just personal development, professional development courses. You can take those. In a lot of communities, in their community centers, they have evening classes as well. So there are ways that it doesn't cost a fortune. Heck, even if you don't have the money, you can go on YouTube for free. And YouTube, they're always going to teach. You can always learn something on YouTube for free. So figure out what your talents are, what your strengths are, and nurture them. Try to participate in activities that engage them, and that will give you meaning. You can even volunteer if you want, whatever that particular skill is. Definitely will give you a lot more meaning in your life by engaging and using those skills. Know what your limitations are. I kind of touched on that. And know that you cannot become an expert on everything. You just can't be an expert. There's some things that you're going to be great at, and there are other things that you are not. And just being able to identify those, your strengths and your limitations, can really empower you to make decisions that will help you live more meaningful, will help you to avoid situations that are going to be more stressful and put you in a unhealthy environment. The fifth step is know what you stand for. And this, I think, is probably one of the most challenging steps for a lot of people. I'm speaking based on my observations and my interactions with in the workplace, like in different places that I've worked. Okay, so be confident and live with courage to represent those things that matter to you and that align with your values. So you need to know what your values are. What is important to you? Where do you draw the line in terms of your values? I have family members who are Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists, the Sabbath is on Saturday. Well, most businesses do not recognize Saturday as the Sabbath. And if you're working, say, in a hospital, or you're working in the gaming industry where I worked for many years, they don't recognize Saturday. So if you know you need Saturdays off, be upfront about it. You need to work, yeah. And if you just aren't willing to give that up, then be upfront about it. So that you don't end up putting yourself in a difficult situation unnecessarily. It really will give you confidence and also clarity. At my last job that I worked at, as in any office environment, there was a lot of gossip that went on, typical pettiness, but there was good stuff too, a lot of good working relationships. I committed when I got there that I was not going to engage in all the gossip. I just didn't want any part of it. I'd seen it before, was involved in it when I was younger. I know what it creates, and I just didn't want to be a part of it. Since I wasn't a part of it, my colleagues started seeing me as a person that they could vent to. They knew if they came into my office and closed my door and vented for 3 minutes, that's where it stayed. I wasn't going to pick up the telephone and call somebody as soon as they walked out of the office and say, oh man, guess who was in my office and guess what they said? No. They came in, they vented, and I was okay with the venting because I understood what it feels like to need to get something off the chest in a constructive way, but also being aware of who is receiving the information and what they may or may not do with it. So that never stressed me out. It actually made me feel really good that I was helping people sort through their experiences. If they asked for my advice, I gave them my advice. But for the most part, I didn't do the gossip thing. That was important to me, and I stuck with that. And again, don't compromise your values. Know in advance what some of your choices may be. If you know that your supervisor always asks for help at the last minute and you end up having to stay late for work because your supervisor is jammed up and needs your help, at some point in time, if you staying late is affecting your relationship at home, maybe you have a young child to pick up, maybe you committed to helping your significant other with something, maybe you have a course, maybe you have a class you need to take, maybe it's a fitness class, whatever it is, know that if you're confident in your values and your values and the understanding of the negative consequences that may come from those around you and being comfortable and okay with that, then if you're planning that ahead of time, then it's not so bad when the situation comes and you pull them aside and you say, hey, listen, I need to say this to you. And being able to clearly articulate what it is that's conflicting with your values and being honest and being able to say it in a constructive way where your message is effectively conveyed. So, lastly, being comfortable with being unpopular or being okay with being unpopular because you stick to your values. Number 6 is to be useful. Make the day better because you were in it. Simply make every day better. Your interactions, being mindful and being conscientious and intentional about how you interact with people throughout the day. One of the things I loved doing when I worked in New Jersey was the pay it forward on the Atlantic City Expressway. I took the expressway to work. If you're not from the northern area, if you're from down south where I am now, you don't pay tolls here. We don't pay tolls here like we do up north. So I would get on the expressway, and instead of going through the quick change one and just dumping the money in the bin, I would go through the lane that had a teller or a toll taker. And I would give the toll taker money for my car and pay for maybe two or three other people behind me. And I would just say, I'm paying mine, and this extra money is for the 2 cars or 3 cars behind me. And then I would edge up a little bit just to see the first person's response. And I loved it because, you know what? That person back there, they may have had a really tough morning. They may have had a fight with a significant other. They may have gotten some bad news about an illness or a death of a family member, a sick child. Who knows? But that small gesture may make a difference in their life. So, as I said, make the day better because you were there. Make the idea better because you were in it. If you're at work and maybe you're not in the best space, mental space that is, and you're in a meeting, and who likes meetings, right? But you're in a meeting and ideas are being shot back and forth across the table, In your mind, you're thinking, ugh, I just want this to be over. Well, be a part of the process. Contribute an idea. Maybe your idea may make the end result even better. So you want to make the people that you encounter stronger because you provided a helping hand. Hold that door for that person coming behind you. We don't typically People don't typically slam the door in your face on purpose. Like you're going into Wawa up north or QT down south. And sometimes people can be so wrapped up in their world for their day that you're not paying attention to what is happening around you. There may be someone walking behind you. There may be someone walking behind you who needs your help. Their hands are full, and because you're so consumed with your day, you let the door fling right in their face. It wasn't intentional, but if you were more mindful and more intentional about, in your day and what you're doing, then you would see that. So offer that helping hand. What else did I used to do? There was a 7-Eleven near the building that I worked in. And there was a homeless man there. Not just me, but other workers would buy him coffee or buy him something for lunch. We knew he was going to be there. We knew he needed it. And so we just reached in our pocket and did something nice for them. If you're in a convenience store like a Wawa, a 7-Eleven, a QT, I think it's a racetrack, the other one down here, pay for that person's coffee ahead of you or pay for the coffee behind you. A perfect example, sorry about that. A perfect example of what that looks like as a receiver is I went to Dunkin' Donuts to get me a cup of coffee the other day. And every now and then when I go in there, they tell me it's on me today. That's really nice because you know what? There may be a day where I go in there where I really don't have the money, or maybe the money that I would have spent the one day I could use the next, or I take that money and I put it in the tip jar. So it's just being mindful, being intentional, being purposeful, and being useful. So that's number 6. Number 7, the last step to leading a meaningful life is to be responsible. Do your part and then do some more. So have initiative and give when you aren't asked to give. Offer a helping hand when you're not expected to help. Turn off the excuses around. Like don't blame, stop blaming others for negative things that happens. Example, if you're a parent and you have more than one child, right? You come home and maybe there's milk or something spilled on the floor and you say to the one, you say to your one kid, why didn't you wipe that up? What's the first thing they say? Oh, I didn't do that. That was Shayna. That was Lisa. That was this one. Same thing takes place in the workplace, okay? You're walking down the hallway, you see trash on the floor, pick it up. Just because your job isn't to clean the floor, it doesn't mean you cannot hold yourself responsible for being a part of maintaining a clean facility. Because if you're working in a public space, when a customer walks in, if the space is dirty or if it's unkempt, then it leaves a bad impression on the company as a whole. And for the company as a whole, if they're not doing well, then in the end, it's going to affect you because some jobs are going to be cut when the company loses money. So that's a thought for you. The world is a better place when we refuse to see ourselves as entitled. So I see this a lot. You'll see this a lot in the workplace. You'll see it a lot in the workplace with long-term employees. In education, teachers, not all, I'm not saying all, but, places where people work for a long time, in education, in the medical profession. in maybe the police or the fire department, certain government, in government areas. You'll see it across the board, but people feel as though because they've worked for the company or the agency for an extended period of time, they feel like they're entitled to something. We know what entitlement looks like. If you have children and you have a decent income, and you buy your kids an expensive pair of sneakers, they don't always show gratitude for that. So why is that? Because they feel like they're entitled to it. You're my mom, you're my dad, you can pay for that, you should, you have the money. So that's that entitlement. So just being mindful of what that looks like, what that sounds like, and trying to not be a part of that way of thinking. Take charge of your own path, okay? So I've said this for many years with people. If you're unhappy with where you are in your life, figure out where you want to be and take the steps to get there. In another video, I'll talk about myself in it when I was in such place. But the change won't happen tomorrow, maybe not even next week, or maybe not even next year. But the change will occur. And you cannot expect anybody to make that happen for you. That has to happen by your own accordance, your own strength, your motivation, your desire, your drive. You can, if you want to completely flip the switch and change careers, which I've done that. I'm going on my third time in doing that now. That's not an easy task, but it is possible. Figure out what the requirements are to go into that next profession, that next industry. Volunteer, get your credentials, and set about your business of doing something every day to move you closer in that direction. And the bottom line is you are the captain of your own ship. You're the captain that decides the level of success in your life. So those are the 7 steps, and I'm going to read them again to you. Okay. The first step for a meaningful life is to work for quality. Step 2 is to be kind and to practice empathy. Step 3 is to pull your own happiness wagon. 4, take time to get to know yourself. Step 5, know what you stand for and stay with it. Number 6, be useful. And number 7, be responsible. I hope that these 7 steps will help you to live a more meaningful life. If you like this video, please, I ask you to share it with others. Share it with at least one person. Like the video and know that you can find me on Instagram. And I'm also on, I have a Facebook page, Lexa's Wellness. Until the next time, thank you for watching. Be blessed. Stay mindful and make every day matter because you do too. Thank you.